Welcome to the channel for another thrilling video. Most people who watch our videos are not subscribed, so I kindly ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Your like is essential for YouTube to understand that this content is relevant, so please like, share, and leave your comment. Now, let's get to the story. The party was at its peak, illuminated by twinkling lights dancing to the rhythm of an infectious beat. The rooftop of a luxurious building in downtown Austin showcased a stunning view of the city, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter, toasts, and animated conversations. André, a young businessman with a confident look and an easy smile, mingled among the guests, being the center of attention. Dressed in a tailored suit, he seemed to have everything he could wish for: a promising career, loyal friends, and a bright future ahead. However, a strange and uncomfortable sensation lurked beneath the surface of his happiness. He felt that something was about to change. "You look amazing, André. This place is perfect for you," complimented Clara, a longtime friend, as she raised her champagne glass in a toast. "Thanks, Clara. It's nice to have a moment to celebrate, isn't it?" he replied, forcing a smile while looking around, as if searching for something that wasn't there. But quick flashes of a recent meeting flooded his mind. The tension in the office, the furtive glances from his partner, the phone ringing incessantly, a premonition that the party might be the last gasp of a life that would soon change radically. The music pulsed and the guests were having fun, but during a quick conversation with an investor, André received a message that made his heart race. He stepped away from the group, staring at his phone screen as the words in the message sounded like a distant echo. "We need to talk. It's urgent." A chill ran down his spine, and the fun around him began to feel like a mirage. The next day, reality turned into a nightmare. In the company's conference room, the atmosphere was tense. André sat at the table, surrounded by familiar faces that now seemed strange. His partner, Lucas, had an air of superiority that André had never seen before. "I trusted you, André," Lucas said, his voice heavy with irony, "but you didn't realize you were surrounded by enemies. Now, we're facing a crisis that could have been avoided." "What crisis are you talking about, Lucas? What happened?" André asked, his voice trembling with confusion and despair. Lucas smiled, a cold and calculated smile. "The accounts were audited, and you don't know, but I have evidence linking you to fraud. The press is already aware. Your reputation is at stake." André felt the ground open beneath his feet. Lucas's words echoed in his mind as the room seemed to spin. He looked at the other executives, all with expressions of disappointment and judgment. "This can't be true. I built this company from the ground up," he exclaimed, trying to contain his anger and pain. "Building doesn't matter if you're on the wrong path," Lucas replied, and with a disdainful look. "Just prepare for the fall. You'll have to deal with the consequences." The meeting became a whirlwind of accusations and defenses. André felt small, as if he were fighting against an unrelenting tide. When the meeting ended, he left, dragging his feet, his heart heavy with the betrayal of someone he considered a friend. The weight of the world seemed to be on his shoulders as he left the office for the last time. With the sun setting on the Austin horizon, André drove to the Hyde Park neighborhood, where he grew up. The familiar streets now felt strange and hostile. Curious and judgmental looks followed him, as if he were a stranger returning to a place he once called home. He parked the car and slowly walked to his grandfather's house, a place filled with memories that now felt distant. Upon entering the house, the smell of wood and nostalgia enveloped him. He remembered sunny afternoons spent there, listening to his grandfather's stories about life, love, and overcoming challenges. But today, that house also felt like a symbol of his own defeat. He sat in an old chair, looking around when his eyes fell upon a wooden box in the corner of the room. Something compelled him to examine it. With trembling hands, André opened the box and found a dusty diary. As he flipped through the pages, a wave of emotions washed over him. His grandfather's words were there, pulsing with life. He read about challenges, triumphs, and the tireless struggle of a man who never gave up. However, the notes also contained secrets that seemed to echo his own life. "Maybe here I will find the answers I so desperately need," André murmured to himself, feeling a spark of hope for the first time since the betrayal. The diary could be the key to transforming his destiny. André moved slowly through his grandfather's old house, each step echoing in the silence that enveloped the space. The ranch, which once pulsed with laughter and stories, was now covered with a layer of dust and loneliness. The walls, adorned with black and white photographs, told the story of a life rich with challenges. He remembered the afternoons spent there, listening to his grandfather narrate stories about the past, while the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Why was all of this left behind? André murmured to himself as he examined a shelf full of dusty books. He wasn't sure if he was seeking answers or just trying to reconnect with a part of his life that seemed to have vanished along with his success. As he rummaged through the shelves, a small metallic object fell to the floor, catching his attention. Curious, he crouched down and found a wooden box, adorned with carvings representing nature. André's heart raced. He opened the box carefully, revealing a time-worn diary. The pages were yellowed, and the leather cover was worn, but still legible. He thought, this must be from Grandpa, a mix of emotion and anxiety filling him. He settled into an old chair as the sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the words that began to dance before his eyes. The handwriting was elegant, and each line seemed to vibrate with the wisdom of a man who had lived intensely. André read aloud, "Life is made of choices, and the choices we make shape our legacy." Feeling a lump form in his throat, he turned the page and came across a passage mentioning a mill in town, a place he knew well. The mill was the heart of our community. When the wind blew, it turned, bringing life and hope. But there were always internal enemies who tried to destroy it. What enemies? André whispered, intrigued. The diary continued to recount events that changed the mill's history, mixing familiar details with a narrative that felt like a mystery. He started jotting down some points, hoping the clues would help him understand the connection between his family's past and his own misfortune. I just need a lead, he thought, determined. Maybe this can help me overcome what happened. With each new page, André felt he was connecting with his grandfather in a way he had never imagined. There was something powerful in the words written there, something that seemed to offer not just comfort, but a path forward. He suddenly stood up, excitement pulsing through his veins. If Grandpa was able to change the lives of so many people, maybe I can too, he murmured to himself. The idea of using his grandfather's knowledge and experience to rebuild his life began to take shape in his mind. But it would take more than just determination. He would need support. Determined, André began to revisit the memories of his childhood and the stories he had heard about his grandfather. He remembered Martha, the elderly woman who always shared stories about the town and the impact his grandfather had during the Great Depression. Maybe she knows something more about the internal enemies, he thought. As he closed the diary, a feeling of hope began to blossom in his heart, a spark of light amid the darkness surrounding him. He was about to discover not only the secrets of his family but also the secrets of himself. I will uncover the truth, he declared aloud, with renewed determination. And this could change everything. With the diary tucked under his arm, André left the house, feeling he was about to embark on a journey that would not only lead him to better understand his past, but could also redefine his future. André sat on a wooden bench in Hyde Park, watching the leaves of the trees sway gently in the afternoon breeze. His grandfather's diary lay open on his lap, its yellowed and worn pages filled with stories that seemed to leap to life. He was still absorbed in the memories he had read when a group of people began to gather nearby, drawn in by an animated conversation. Did you know that André's grandfather helped revitalize the town during the Great Depression? Martha's voice, an elderly woman who had always been a constant presence in his childhood, caught his attention. She was surrounded by some neighbors, gesturing as she told a story that mixed nostalgia and admiration. André approached, curious. "What do you mean, Martha?" he asked, a smile revealing his genuine interest. Martha turned to him, her eyes sparkling. "Oh dear, your grandfather wasn't just a businessman. He was a true pillar of the community. When everything seemed lost, he organized a project to help families get back on their feet. He implemented a food and service exchange system. It was like a flea market, but with a heart. It saved many lives." The faces around André lit up with memories. A younger woman he didn't know chimed in. "Yes, I remember the old days. Your grandfather brought hope when everything seemed dark. He inspired us all." André felt warmth rise to his face, a mix of pride and shame. Pride in being the grandson of such an admirable man, but shame for not realizing the impact his grandfather had on the community. He looked at the diary in his hands and realized that perhaps there was a way for him to do the same. "I would like to do something like that," André said, looking at the encouraging faces around him. "I'm thinking of a sustainable project for the town, something that can bring us all together again." A murmur of approval swept through the small group. Martha smiled and nodded. "That would be wonderful, André, but you know it won't be easy. People are afraid of change." "I know," André replied, feeling the weight of his words. "But what my grandfather did is proof that when we come together, we can overcome any challenge. I just need support." The mysterious man who had been watching André at community events appeared again, standing at a distance, watching with a somber expression. André couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more about him, something that could be a threat. He quickly averted his gaze, refocusing on Martha and the others. "So, do you have a plan yet?" asked a middle-aged man, his voice encouraging. "I'm just getting started," André replied, a bit hesitantly. "I thought about creating a community space where people could grow their own gardens, share gardening techniques, and learn about sustainability." "That's amazing," exclaimed an elderly woman. "We can do this together. The community needs a meeting point, a place to feel safe and united." André felt his determination grow. "What if we organized a meeting next week? We could gather interested people and discuss how we can get started." "I would love to help," said Martha. "And I will call some people who can help with project management. Your grandfather always said we can't do this alone." "Exactly," André replied excitedly. "Together we are stronger. I will seek support from everyone. You are right, Martha. We need the community." As the conversation continued, André felt lighter. The idea of a sustainable project was beginning to take shape in his mind, fueled by the stories of his grandfather and the energy of the community. He knew the journey would be long and full of challenges. But now, instead of feeling alone, he had allies by his side, and more importantly, he had the memory of his grandfather as a guiding light on his path. André was in a mix of hope and apprehension as he walked through the central square of Austin, where preparations for the community meeting were in full swing. He had spent the last few days refining his sustainable project proposal, and the last thing he needed was a rival like Ethan, who seemed determined to make his life a hell. As he entered the meeting venue, André spotted Ethan in a corner, talking with some residents. With a friendly smile, Ethan seemed the epitome of cordiality, but André would not be fooled. The tension between them was palpable, and André could feel that Ethan was about to make a move. "Look who decided to show up," said Ethan, approaching André with a jovial tone. "The big businessman who had a meteoric fall. I hope you brought something better than your last ideas." André took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm here to present a project that can benefit everyone." "I don't have time for your provocations, Ethan." Ethan just laughed, a laugh that sounded more like a challenge than a joke. "Do you really think people will trust you after what happened? The city doesn't need another broken dream." André felt anger bubbling inside him, but he struggled not to react. He turned to the others present, trying to ignore Ethan. "Everyone, I appreciate everyone being here. Today, I want to share with you an idea that can revitalize our community and honor the legacy of our history." The meeting began, and André presented his ideas passionately, but Ethan wouldn't leave him alone. As he spoke, André noticed Ethan whispering to some people, casting disdainful glances at him. The atmosphere was shifting, and André felt he needed to act quickly. After the presentation, André approached a group of supporters, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Looking toward the back of the room, he saw Ethan in an intense conversation with one of the investors who had shown interest in his project. André's heart raced. "I think we need to talk, André," said an elderly woman named Martha, who had been one of his project's most fervent supporters. "I'm concerned about what's happening here." "Ethan is spreading rumors, I know," André replied, looking toward Ethan, who was now gesturing emphatically. "But what can I do? I can't control what he says." Martha placed her hand on André's shoulder. "You need to focus on what's right. The truth always comes out, and people will see your value. Don't let him discourage you." Before André could respond, a man rushed into the room, interrupting the conversation. Sorry, André. We need to talk. We found a series of documents suggesting that someone is trying to sabotage your proposal. André's expression darkened. Sabotage? What do you mean? Rumors about your integrity? About what happened at your company? They are trying to undermine your credibility before you even have a chance to officially present the project. André clenched his fists. This is unacceptable. I can't let this happen. I need to find out who's behind this. Ethan, said Martha, with a serious look. He's the only one who would benefit from this. We need to gather evidence and show the truth. André nodded, determined. I will confront him. If he's behind this, I won't let it slide. That night, as the sun set, André decided he couldn't just be a spectator. The battle for the truth was just beginning, and he was determined to fight for his legacy and the future of his community. André sat at the table in his grandmother's old kitchen, the smell of aged wood mingling with the dust of history. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a soft glow on the journal he had found. With trembling hands, he opened the worn leather cover and began to flip through the yellowed pages. What had once been just a record of thoughts now felt like a map guiding him back to his essence. Each word written by his grandfather resonated with a wisdom André had not noticed before. He stopped at a page that contained a detailed plan for an unfinished, sustainable project. The drawing depicted a renewable energy factory, with margin notes speaking of innovation and the importance of caring for the environment. André read aloud, "The future depends on our ability to respect the land that sustains us." He couldn't help but smile. This was the answer he had been looking for. And what if I could bring this to life? André murmured to himself as the idea began to take shape in his mind. His grandfather's project was not just an abandoned dream. It could be the foundation for his own redemption. He stood up, feeling a new excitement pulse inside him. But at the same time, a shadow of doubt loomed over him. What would the investors think? How could he, with his ruined reputation, convince people to bet on his vision? As he lost himself in thought, the kitchen door opened, and Martha, the elderly woman who had always supported him, entered. With her warm demeanor, she brought with her the aroma of freshly baked pie. "André, dear, what are you doing here alone? Shouldn't you be out there showing this beautiful city that you worked so hard to leave behind?" "Hi, Martha. I'm just revisiting some memories," he said with a half-smile, quickly closing the journal to hide the secrets he wasn't ready to share. Martha leaned in to see what he was hiding. "Ah, your grandfather's journal. He always had a fascinating story to tell. Did you know he was one of the people responsible for revitalizing the city during the Great Depression?" "I've heard some stories, but I don't know the details," André replied, feeling a pang of curiosity. "What exactly did he do?" "Oh, my dear, he brought people together. He organized community workdays to rebuild neighborhoods, taught young people to work with their hands and respect the land. He believed that together they could overcome any crisis. You have the same passion he did, André. You just need to believe in yourself," Martha encouraged, her gaze deep and full of understanding. André felt a spark of hope ignite within him. If his grandfather could achieve so much in difficult times, why couldn't he do the same now? But as that light grew, another shadow arose in his mind. But what about Ethan? He will do everything to bring me down. What if I fail again? Don't worry about that, dear. The past is just part of your story. What matters is what you do now. And remember, the journal may contain more than you think, she said, winking. Determined to help, Martha got up and walked over to the shelf. "I always remember a phrase from your grandfather. Internal enemies can be more dangerous than external ones." He knew that sometimes the biggest battles were against our own insecurities. "Do you think Ethan is connected to this?" André asked, a restlessness growing in his chest. "Maybe. But you need to find out for yourself. The journal may have answers, and you must prepare to find them." "Sometimes what we seek is closer than we think," Martha replied, her voice calm. André felt a wave of determination. He not only wanted to reclaim his grandfather's legacy, but also to overcome the difficulties surrounding him. With a new focus, he turned to the journal, determined to uncover all the secrets it held. "I will move forward," he declared, his voice steady, "and I will do this for myself and for him." The feeling of a new purpose flooded his being, and although the shadow of Ethan still lingered, André was ready to face whatever came his way. André was sitting at his grandfather's kitchen table, the journal open in front of him, its yellowed pages full of notes and stories that seemed to pulse with life. He took a deep breath, trying to dispel the frustration that consumed him. The sustainable project he had envisioned was under threat, and the sabotage Ethan had orchestrated seemed unbeatable. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind, but the pressure was becoming unbearable. That day, the atmosphere was tense. News about André and his project spread like wildfire, and he knew that every time Ethan presented himself as a friend, his intentions were anything but noble. The last straw was the meeting he had with potential investors, where rumors planted by Ethan about his competence tarnished his image. As André tried to explain his vision, he noticed the skeptical faces before him, and that demotivated him. "Who do you think you are, André?" One investor's voice cut through the air, filled with distrust. "Do you really think you can lead a project of this magnitude after everything that happened?" André felt the weight of that question, the incredulity around him like a storm about to break. He stood up, determined not to let himself be discouraged. "I am someone who believes in what I'm doing. I am someone who will not give up," he replied, his voice firm, but the echo of doubt still reverberated within him. That night, as he reviewed the project drafts, he came across a letter in the journal, written in careful handwriting. His grandfather's words seemed to transcend time, as if he were there beside him, guiding him. "Trust your unexpected allies, André. True strength comes from unity," the letter said. He closed his eyes, feeling a wave of hope. The idea that there could be people willing to help him, even amidst chaos, began to blossom in his mind. The next day, André decided it was time to act. He organized a community event to present his project comprehensively, even knowing that Ethan's resistance would be fierce. He called Martha, the elderly woman who had become an ally, and proposed, "Martha, I need you. Your story and what your grandfather did for the community are crucial to show that together we can make a difference. Of course, dear, I'm with you. Your grandfather's story needs to be told." "He was a true pillar for this city," Martha replied, her voice full of determination. "And I will help you bring people to this meeting. We need them to see what you are trying to do." André felt that hope was being reborn in his heart. He spent the following days preparing every detail of the event, focused on creating an environment that reflected the spirit of unity and resilience he wanted to convey. He remembered his grandmother's words about the importance of humble leadership and decided that this would be the essence of his presentation. The day of the event arrived, and the hall was decorated with old family photos and stories from the town. André looked at the audience, and which was beginning to gather, and saw faces he had known since childhood, some with expressions of skepticism, others of curiosity. He stepped onto the stage, his heart racing but determined. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice echoing in the space. "I know many of you have doubts about me and what I am proposing, but I am here to share a vision that goes beyond me. It is about our past, our present, and the future we can build together." As he spoke, he saw Martha nodding her head, and that gave him courage. "My grandfather believed that communities grow stronger when everyone works together. He faced enormous challenges, and it is this resilience that I want to bring back to Austin through this sustainable project." And there, under the stage lights, André felt a connection to his heritage and to the community. He knew this was an opportunity not just for recovery, but for transformation. He was about to show everyone that even after betrayal and collapse, the true legacy lay in uniting people and cultivating a better future. The atmosphere was tense in Hyde Park, where André had organized a community event to present his sustainable project. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink, reflecting the excitement and anxiety that filled the air. The chairs were arranged in a large circle, and the central table displayed models and plans of the project, carefully prepared by André. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves, as he watched the crowd gather. "Martha, can you help me arrange the chairs?" André asked, seeing the elderly woman approach with a gentle smile. "Of course, dear. I'm so excited to see what you've prepared." "Your grandfather would be so proud," she replied, her eyes shining with nostalgia. André smiled, grateful for her support. He knew Martha's presence was vital. Her story about his grandfather could touch the community's heart and lend more credibility to his project. As the audience settled in, André's anxiety grew. He looked to the side and saw Ethan approaching, with a smile he didn't dare trust. "I hope you have something good to show, André." "I don't want to be disappointed," Ethan said, with a teasing tone. "You won't be disappointed," André replied, trying to maintain his composure. "This project can change all our lives." With a wave, Ethan walked away, but not without casting a disdainful glance around, as if waiting for the right moment to attack. André turned, focusing on the audience that was starting to applaud, and stepped onto the stage, feeling the weight of their gazes upon him. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his voice echoing through the park. "Today, I want to share with you a dream that was born from the story of my family and our town." As André spoke, his passion became evident. He told about his grandfather and the difficulties he faced during the Great Depression, how he had helped transform the town and bring hope to its residents. Martha's stories complemented his words, making the audience remember the impact that solidarity and resilience could have. "And this sustainable project that I present today is not just a way to honor my grandfather's legacy, but an opportunity to create a better future for all of us," he continued, gesturing to the models. "With your help, we can transform this space into a symbol of unity and progress." The audience was clearly engaged, but André knew Ethan wouldn't stay silent for long, and it didn't take long for that to happen. The moment André began explaining the details of the project, Ethan abruptly stood up. "Sorry to interrupt, but aren't you just selling illusions, André? What do you really know about sustainability?" Ethan shot back, his voice heavy with sarcasm. The murmurs in the audience rose, and André felt his heart race. "I know enough to understand that we need to change." "What are you doing to help, Ethan?" he retorted, keeping calm. "I'm just concerned about the community's interests, something you seem to have forgotten," Ethan said, approaching the stage. "What you really want is to redeem yourself for your downfall, isn't it?" At that moment, Martha intervened, standing up firmly. "Ethan, you know very well that André is doing something admirable. His family has always done what was right for this town, and now you come to stir the waters. That's not fair." The audience began murmuring again, and André seized the opportunity. "Martha is right. This project is not about me, but about all of us. And before you criticize, how about looking at your own interests, Ethan?" Ethan hesitated, but soon regained his composure. "You may have the support of some, André, but the truth always comes to light," he said, his voice cold. That's when Martha, with a glint of determination in her eyes, held up a document. "I have something here that could change everything. When my grandfather passed away, he left a letter and some documents that prove your grandfather was involved in practices that could be questionable. What do you have to say about that, Ethan?" The audience fell silent, their gazes turning to Ethan, who now seemed to be losing confidence. André watched, feeling a wave of hope. He knew that the truth was finally being exposed, and the fight for his grandfather's legacy was about to take a new turn. The atmosphere was charged with tension in the small office of the old renewable energy factory. André, with his heart racing, faced Ethan, who remained in a defensive position, arms crossed and a challenging look. The environment, filled with documents and old projects, seemed to echo the conflicts of the past. A shattered window let in sunlight, creating a contrast between the darkness of distrust and the hope that André was trying to cultivate. "You know you can't just destroy everything my grandfather built, right?" André began, his voice firm but with a slight tremor. "This project is a chance to rewrite our history, a chance to unite not only our family but the community." Ethan laughed, but there was no humor in his smile. "Unite? Do you really think you can erase the wounds of the past with a sustainable project? My father lost everything because of your family. What do you expect? That I just believe in your good intentions?" André took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not here to talk about past grievances, Ethan. I'm trying to move forward. My grandfather's diary showed me that he made mistakes too, but he fought to do the right thing. We can't live trapped in these old rivalries." The rival tilted his head, critically examining André. "And what are you going to do? Present a pretty project and hope everyone embraces you? The community won't forget so easily." "I don't expect people to forget, but I hope they see the value in what we're proposing. What's at stake is bigger than our petty squabbles. It's about the future of Austin." André gestured toward the window, as if he wanted Ethan to see beyond that crumbling factory. "This city needs hope, and I want you to be part of it." Ethan hesitated, his gaze hardening for a moment before softening. "Do you think I'm willing to forget all the lies surrounding our families? It's not just your grandfather who has guilt in this. I know there's a legacy of pain between us," André replied, sincerity shining through his tone. "But maybe, if we work together, we can turn that pain into something positive. A new beginning." "A new beginning," Ethan murmured, thoughtful. "What if I don't want that new beginning? What if I prefer to continue the fight?" "Then you will only be perpetuating the cycle. Think about your daughter, Ethan. Think about what you want her to inherit, a legacy of anger or a legacy of change." The question hung in the air, heavy and significant. The rival finally stepped away from the wall, his body relaxing slightly, while his expression revealed an internal conflict. "You have courage, André, I can't deny that. But what if I can't trust you?" "I'm not asking you to trust me right away," André replied, with a hopeful smile. "I'm asking for a chance to show that we can do this together. If you let me, I'll prove that your doubts are wrong." Ethan looked at the ground, reflecting on André's words. Silence settled between them, and the history of their families seemed to echo in the walls. A narrative of pain and rivalry intertwined with the possibility of a different future. "I'll think about what you said," Ethan finally declared, his voice low but loaded with meaning. "But know that if I decide to participate, it will be on my terms." "I accept that," André replied, relieved. "Let's work together. Let's show Austin that a new legacy is possible." As the two men faced each other, the distance between them seemed to lessen, and the broken window became a symbol of new perspectives. The struggle for truth and redemption was still far from over, but for the first time there was a spark of hope in the air, a possibility that the past could be overcome by a future built on collaboration and understanding. The atmosphere in the Hyde Park neighborhood was electrified. The sun was beginning to set, tinting the sky orange and purple, reflecting the renewed hope that André had sown in the community. He watched as people gathered for the construction of the sustainable project, a dream that was starting to come to life. He heard laughter, lively conversations, and the sound of tools being handled. The energy was palpable, and he felt that he was finally reclaiming not just his life, but also his place in that city he had always loved. "Look at that, André, you brought everyone together," exclaimed Martha, the elderly woman who had shared so many stories about his grandfather. She was surrounded by a group of young people, teaching them how to plant tree saplings. "This is more than a project, it's a rebirth for all of us." André smiled, feeling emotional. "I just did what my grandfather always believed. The unity of the community is the true strength." As they worked, André saw Ethan from afar, observing the scene with an unreadable expression. The rival had changed since the last time they met. He seemed more reflective, almost melancholic. When he approached, André couldn't help but feel a mix of caution and curiosity. "Ethan," André said, stopping beside him. "What are you thinking?" Ethan hesitated. I was thinking about how all of this could have been different, how the disputes of the past kept us apart." André looked at him, surprised. "You mean that you're willing to leave all of this behind?" "Sometimes, life teaches us hard lessons. I realized that my anger didn't get me anywhere. If I can help in some way, I want to." André frowned, evaluating what Ethan had just said. "Do you really want to join us?" "It won't be easy. There are many issues to resolve." "I know, but I am ready to face this. Your grandfather and his legacy deserve my respect, and maybe I can learn something from you too," Ethan replied, his gaze sincere. The conversation was interrupted by a group of volunteers approaching, bringing more tools and equipment. André felt a warmth in his chest, a new hope. He needed allies, and maybe, just maybe, he could find an unexpected partner in Ethan. As the day progressed and the first seedlings were planted, André found a moment to step away and open the journal once again. He sat on a fallen log, the yellowed pages revealing more teachings from his grandfather. A specific note caught his attention. "Leadership is servitude. Listen, learn, and always be willing to grow together." He reflected on this as he watched the community coming together. The idea of leadership was not just about being in front, but about inspiring and empowering others. He stood up, determined to share his vision with everyone. "Hey everyone," he called out, gaining everyone's attention. "I want to thank each one of you for being here. Today, we are not only planting trees but sowing hope. This project is not mine, but ours. Each one of you is a part of it." Martha smiled, clapping, and soon the sound of applause echoed through the small crowd. André continued, "Ethan is also here with us. He decided to join us, and this shows that, even after misunderstandings, we can find a way to collaborate." The gazes turned to Ethan, who was visibly nervous but also determined. He nodded, and the community's response was a mix of surprise and acceptance. "I don't know everything, but I'm here to learn and help," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Together, let's make Austin a more sustainable and united place." André felt the tension in the air dissipate, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. They were ready to work together, and the idea of a new beginning was about to come to fruition. The journey was still far from over, but now there was a shared purpose, and he knew his grandfather would be proud. On the sunny morning of the Sustainable Project launch, the atmosphere in Austin's Central Square was charged with emotion and anticipation. Standing before the crowd, André felt his heart race. He looked at the familiar faces of his neighbors, friends, and even those who had become unexpected allies during his journey. What had once been a distant dream was now becoming a reality, and he had the responsibility to share the story that had guided him to this moment. With a microphone in hand, André took a deep breath and began. "Today, we are not just celebrating a project. We are celebrating a legacy left by my grandfather, a man who believed in the power of community and innovation." He paused, observing the attentive and emotional gazes of the audience. "When I returned to Austin, I felt lost. But when I opened his journal, I realized that there was more to my life than just personal success. There was a story of resilience and hope that needed to be shared." As his words echoed through the square, a murmur of approval swept through the crowd. Martha, the elderly woman who had shared her memories of André's grandfather, raised her hand and shouted, "He always believed in us. He was always here to help." Martha's firm voice, tinged with time and emotion, brought a sense of nostalgia and strength to the speech. André smiled at her, grateful for her presence, while applauding along with the rest of the community. Continuing, he spoke about the hardships his grandfather faced during the Great Depression, how he had fought to revitalize the town, and how those efforts reflected in the present. "What we are doing today is just a small step toward a better future. This project represents the unity of all of us, proof that together we can overcome any challenge." As André spoke, something in his chest pulsed with intensity. It was as if each word connected the past to the present, creating invisible bonds among those who were there. He then remembered the last note he had found in the journal. With a gesture, he pulled out the notebook and opened a marked page. My grandfather wrote, "To lead is to serve. The true impact we leave is measured by how much we help others grow." He raised his eyes, finding Ethan's gaze in the crowd. The rival, now an ally, was there, listening intently. "Ethan," André called him, causing everyone to turn to the man who had once been his adversary. "You are also part of this story. What started as a rivalry has transformed into a partnership. I invite you to join us, not as a competitor, but as a collaborator. Together, we can honor our pasts and build a better future." A wave of murmurs swept through the audience, but Ethan, visibly moved, nodded his head. "I accept, André. Let's work together so that what your grandfather started is never forgotten," Ethan replied, his voice firm but filled with sincerity. The crowd erupted in applause, and André felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of accomplishment he had never experienced before. After his speech, André stepped away for a moment, seeking a moment of tranquility. He came across a secret compartment in the journal that he hadn't noticed before. Curious, he opened it and found a final message. "The greatest legacy we can leave is the change we inspire in others. Never underestimate the power of an act of kindness." André smiled, understanding that it would not just be a project or a new company that would change lives, but the way they came together as a community. At that moment, he realized that the project was not just about physical sustainability, but about cultivating a spirit of collaboration and hope among the people of Austin. As the inauguration continued, André observed the vibrant energy around him. The city was coming together, and he understood that the true legacy of his grandfather was alive in the interactions, the laughter, and the promises of a brighter future. With tears in his eyes, he raised his arms to the sky, thanking everyone who had participated in that journey. The city of Austin, now more united than ever, was becoming a symbol of transformation and love, and André knew that he had finally found his place. So, what did you think of this story? Your opinion is essential for us to improve our content. Write what you thought in the comments and remember to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video.